Camille O'Ryan character is brought up in the 14th chapter.
Yeah.
It's one of Polly's early murders, or at least which involves something of his youth. Could you speak a little bit about that? I know that she is involved later in some of the genre trilogy books that you have.
Yeah, she's the little girl in the Weston book, and she's basically this is the woman who midwifes Paulie in, and we don't know. It seems to be that she had switched that Paulie's real life parents or his biological parents. That their kid died, and that Paulie was a switch because she calls him Matty O'Flynn or something. So because Paulie is light skinned, he's not dark skinned, so he doesn't look as Italian as one might think he is. So that's the question in the book, whether this Paulie, and talking about identity, is Paulie really Paulie, or is Paulie a baby that was switched for the Paulie Maravelli that died? Because we find out that the Paulie Maravelli's father, when the mother was out after having given birth, she gave birth seemingly to stillborn. Well, that's the rumor. We don't know, and so that adds a little element to the Paulie character.
Okay, yeah, and it adds a. It's interesting how the books kind of go through time. Like you'll see the spy book kind of happen. It happens after Norwegian, right?
What?
The spy book happens after Norwegian, right? And then the Western happens.
Well, the spy book is set. The 80 years of his life from 1936 to 2016, or the 80 years that he's lived up until that point.
Yeah, there's a wide span of years in some of the larger books. The Pachetti brothers, it's in contemporary time, but as it's retold. But it also is mostly in the 60s and whatnot. So let's get to the end of the book. The Bit von Rheingold character here appears again. This kind of reminds me of the Martin Scorsese like endings where you'll have a whole group of characters kind of talking around each other.
Which chapter are you on?
Here and there.
Chapter 16?
It's chapter 16, and it is page 487.
All right. Okay, gagging the Wawa Waylo.
And this eventually leads to a great poetic moment towards the end of the book, talking about framing scenes earlier on, and I just want to read it and then get your thoughts. If I can find it here, but talk a little bit about that chapter before I read the thing. Do you agree that it is kind of Scorsese-like in that you get multiple characters talking, and some of them are gossiping over in the side about each other?
Well, I have to see. I don't even remember how the book ends here because Bit shut up. You got Roger. So this is where they're at the restaurant, I think. And so.
No, so my apologies. It's 5:53, I think. Let me see here.
Well, Bagging the Wawa Waiver starts at 4:80. 5:53 is the intermission, so it ends at 5:27. So some of the other laughed outside would have been going on. The air was with something Irving Berlin. Yeah, I mean this is just sort of setting them up. You see Carla. This might be the first chapter. Carla appears in. It's a typical chapter that's a 1960s kind of chapter. 1960s stuff. There's a lot of films where you see people at restaurants. We later have the Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack. I think that's in the second book, that chapter. But Carla, whatever that old mafia don looking. Yeah. So that's Paul. This is where Paulie first meets Carla in this chapter. He just eyes her. And Tony, man, this midget. So Bit is doing one of his things where he's on the tables. Bit in several times in this book and in other books. Bit is like in my spy book. I have Bit in a Carmen Miranda dress with one of those fruit hats dancing around. Bit's always pulling, he's always mooning someone or dancing on tabletops or whatnot. Um, so, I mean, what specifically about it? I mean, yeah, this is sort of
Well,
similar.
I wanted to get to the last chapter, but it's just interesting how kind of you'll see similar scenes in each of the chapters and how it kind of distorts your memories because this was not the chapter that I was going through it again. But yeah, I wanted to mention as I'm going through here, there are sections of ancient Greek poets and everything that you'll have extended sections here using the public domain material. Do you pick specific sections for any kind of dualistic meaning, or is it largely irrelevant?
What do you mean pick specific sections?
Do you pick like a specific section, say, of the Odyssey, and do you use that specific section for a dualistic meaning,
Yes.
or is it at times just frivolous? If a character is reading something, for instance,
It depends. Like there's two or three anarchist speeches or something that I have later on, and there, for example, like I said, some of the foundation characters are required by the mule to read this political nonsense, and so I'll take sections. I might only be interested in 4 or 5 paragraphs. That's essential, but I might go 4 or 5 pages just because the mule probably is not even focused on what the real point is, and so these characters are reading stuff, most of which is superfluous and bullshit, and you want to get to the sense that they're like, what the fuck am I reading this for? In fact, one of the characters, one of the number 2 or 3 guys in the foundation at one point, says this is bullshit. This is just crazy. But what does this have to do with, running, some criminal organization? And so when I have a poem or something or something that repeats, yeah, it depends. I mean, each of those is chosen for a specific reason, but not necessarily because I sometimes will give more than is needed because it adds a little bit to the realism, especially if it's something that seems irrelevant and I want the characters to show them kind of boredom. You can get away. The very fact that Bit von Rheingold might be reading yeah, some Cicero or something is odd, but the fact that he's reading something and it may not have any particular relevance. Why is he reading this? Or why is that character reading that? It just again adds to the kind of realism in the book.